You'll see how to toast without tripping, read seating like a map, and play the sly games of ancient China drinking, from dueling to floating cups, while staying clear of morning after regret. We'll taste policy in soup, politics in music and charm, in every quiet pour of palace dining, the softer engine behind every court feast and slice of elite nightlife. If that sounds like your kind of night, smash like hit, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Let's pour smart, speak softer, and leave richer than we arrived. You arrive before the lamps bloom, where silk rustles like cautious rain. A steward measures you with his eyes, then with a bamboo list that never forgets. Rank determines how close your breath will meet the emperor's sleeve. Welcome to ancient China drinking, where etiquette drinks, first then you. Incense threads the corridor. Drums test the room like a physician. You're already learning the secret. Nerves evaporate slower than wine. The doors sigh open, and cool air holds the scent of pear blossom and lacquer. You hear zithers tuning to a key that feels like politeness. Tables are low, lacquer black, edged with mother-of-pearl moons. This isn't dinner. It's a diagram of power you happen to swallow. At an imperial banquet, even silence is choreographed to bow properly. Your heartbeat tries to clap. Your smile tells it to stand still. Cup appears, thin as a dragonfly's wing, warm as a palm. The server tilts it just enough to suggest humility without spilling. You don't gulp. You greet the cup the way you greet a wise elder. Rice wine whispers, steam that smells of apricot, hay, and winter patience. This first sip is a passport stamped by the House of Ritual. In court life China, the aftertaste is permission to exist. Seating is a compass, and the emperor's north. Closer means hotter. Praise, scrutiny, obligation, cooked to tenderness. Farther means cooler, less glory, more room to breathe and joke. A court feast is a galaxy. You're a small star, happy to burn. A poet at your left murmurs, couplets like silk stitches. You wonder how much wine it takes to trust your own voice. Look down. Chopsticks like lacquered commas, pausing each sentence of taste. A spoon curves like a crescent moon saved for soups and secrets. Napkins smell faintly of osmanthus and starch with aristocratic opinions. Plates arrive like polite thunder, fish glistening, duck skin crackling, bamboo hearts. Palace dining makes appetite walk in single file behind ceremony. You practice gratitude so your hunger doesn't embarrass your wisdom. Now the poor master, a kind tyrant with unblinking wrists. He reads wrists, postures, and ambitions, the way a doctor reads tongues. Too little, and you're cold. Too much, and you're reckless in silk. At an imperial banquet he keeps you brilliant, not burning. 1 finger width more for the general with moon scars on his cheek. You, my friend, get the measured river, not the flood. Listen. Lutes gild the air, while drums behave like dignified thunder. A singer threads notes between dishes the way ivy threads. Eaves, you feel the floorboards hum steady as a loyal servant. This is elite nightlife, but no lantern sign outside dares to brag. Here, joy wears etiquette like a perfectly tailored coat. You laugh in lowercase, so nobody trips over your consonants. Second cup is braver, spiced with ginger that nudges courage awake. You toast ancestors, office, harvest, and the absurd luck of being here. When the rim kisses your lip, the hall approves without blinking. In ancient China, drinking approval is an instrument tuned to breath. Behind you, a screen painted with cranes pretends not to listen. You begin to taste how power ferments, slow, warm, expensive. Food now moves like a procession. Goose lacquered to mirror shine. Lotus seeds that crunch like small promises coming true. Shark, fin glistening with debate. You politely ignore tonight. swallows' nests that taste like clouds, taught to sit still. Every dish in palace dining is a proverb you chew thoughtfully. You nod at flavors, the way you nod at ministers. Respectfully, often. Conversation is a chessboard with jokes for pawns and favors for queens. You drop a compliment like a silk handkerchief and see who picks it up. Prince tests your wit. You return it unbroken and lightly warmed. At a court feast, charm is currency more stable than silver. Meanwhile, servants glide like punctuation that never makes errors. You realize history is happening in whispers 5 inches from soup. The drinking games arrive masked as philosophy. Compose a couplet before the cup completes its circle to you. Guess the character drawn in steam on the tabletop's lacquer. Win, and your cup stays playful. Lose, and it grows heavy. That's how ancient China drinking keeps poets honest and officials awake. You're smiling now. Your tongue has learned to bow without bending. A jester with a painted brow juggles limes like miniature jade suns. A scholar recites the Orchid Pavilion preface, and the room exhales together. Music changes key. The meal changes from statement to conversation. You're full, but the table keeps teaching like a patient master. This is court life China, less banquet than seminar with excellent snacks. You sip water not to sober up, but to underline the moment. Finally, the emperor lifts his cup and the whole spine straightens. The toast is short, old, and sharp enough to cut a future. You drink the way a sailor takes wind, grateful, alert, unafraid. You feel positioned, seen, and slightly indebted to everyone. Elite nightlife ends, not with applause, but with a tidy ledger of favors. And after the last bow, games get stranger, and rules get softer, just ahead. After the first cup, the room tightens. Not tense, just precise in its breathing. You feel Confucian propriety, lead guiding wrists, eyes, even laughter's volume. This is court life China, where etiquette is the invisible host of every table. In ancient China, drinking ritual isn't decoration. It's the spine that holds joy upright. You're not simply at an imperial banquet. You're inside a grammar of gestures. Get the sentence wrong, and even a smile can sound like scandal. Sumptuary codes whisper from every inch of silk and lacquer. A duke's sleeve may flood like a river, a minor official's like a stream. Gold threads count as verbs. You don't conjugate them unless licensed. Lacquerware glows darker the nearer you sit to power's stove. At a court feast, celadon bowls become quiet passports in porcelain. Palace dining teachers rank through objects before a word is spoken. Now the pour. Hierarchy poured as warm as the wine. Higher rank receives first, but never from your own eager hand. A trained server, or lower status guest, tilts the jade cup like sunrise. You will hold the rim level with your brow. Not your ego, then sip. In ancient China, drinking humility seasons flavor better than salt. And yes, a bronze goblet tells older stories than your resume can. There's a bow for greeting, another for gratitude, a third for apology. Angles matter. Too shallow is pride, too deep is performance. At an imperial banquet, sincerity is measured in degrees, not decibels. Toasts travel clockwise, like planets obeying a familiar law. You raise. You speak briefly. You sip, you breathe. Never the reverse. The court feast forgives many sins. Interrupting order isn't one of them. Words are dishes too. The literati serve them in parallel lines. A compliment should arrive like a poem, balanced, seasonal, lightly warmed. Quote, a tang verse badly, and a scholar official will wince in private. Quote it well, and an eyebrow lifts like a discreet lantern. In court life China, wit is a currency that never tarnishes. Spend it carefully, You'll need change for tomorrow's favors. Music cues behavior the way wind cues cranes to lift. A guqin sighs, cups travel. A piper sparkles, laughter may widen. Servers approach with kettles, shaped like little comets of steam. They reheat mijiu until the apricot notes turn bolder and brave. Palace dining times, warmth to the poem, not the thermometer. That's how ancient China drinking keeps dignity from getting cold. Taste the spectrum, Huangjiu soft as a late autumn afternoon. Osmanthus wine, lychee sweetness, citrus ginger notes, incense haze. Cup rim smells faintly of rice hulls and lacquered tables. You don't chug, you negotiate with warmth like an old friend. An imperial banquet prefers you lucid enough to recognize grace. Eat nightlife here is clever, not loud. Lanterns, not fireworks. Consequences hover like polite ghosts behind the silk screens. Tipple past tact, and tomorrow's morning after won't just be a headache. It might be court, intrigue a sideways rumour, a postponed promotion. Misjudge a toast, and you buy a cautionary tale at retail price. In ancient China drinking, regret travels faster than couriers. Exile rarely needs horses. Shame will carry you itself. Scribes notice everything, especially the unsaid said. Well, they record the emperor's couplet and your echo in smaller ink. Crisp line may outlive you in someone's anthology. Ask the song literati. They built reputations on 4 perfect syllables. In court life, China calligraphy is how memory chooses favorites. Kendabtar. Your cup leaves a ring. Your sentence aims to be the same. Ritual feeds appetite, without letting appetite run the kitchen. Imperial kitchens deliver seasonal dishes like arguments in harmony. Spring, bamboo, hearts. Summer carp, silver, as a new coin. Autumn duck with skin that crackles like fresh parchment. Winter soups thick enough to negotiate with January. That balance is the heartbeat of palace dining and every court feast. Let me be blunt, you can use this outside palaces too. When you speak after someone, you respect, echo then add. When you toast, name something larger than yourself first. When you eat, let gratitude arrive before salt finds the table. That's not just ancient China drinking. That's life without unnecessary enemies. And it's how elite nightlife becomes sustainable, not exhausting. You sense the room loosening, not sloppily, but like silk untying a knot. Servers swap kettles for games with lacquered arrows and riddles. The pitch pot, tuhu. Jar rolls out with a grin you can hear. A poet wets his brush. A stream is mentioned. Cups begin to flow. Court life China is about to turn study hall into playground very politely. And those games, oh, those games, will test your tongue more than your aim. You think games are a side dish. Here they're the stove. In court life China, entertainment isn't filler. It's assessment in silk. The moment kettles, leave boards arrive, and rules grow playful fangs. This is ancient China drinking, where laughter carries tiny clipboards. Every smile is graded. Every stumble has a footnote in memory. Welcome to the classroom masquerading as an imperial banquet. First, up, Jiuling, the drinking games that test your lungs and brain. You'll recite a couplet before the cup completes its slow parade. Miss a tone, and your penalty tastes like warm thunder. Hit the rhyme, and the room exhales, yes, like a soft drum. In a court feast, meter is etiquette, wearing a poet's hat. You're learning that wit is safer than courage after the 3rd sip. The master of games taps the table. 6 gentle knocks, everyone ready. He names a theme. Peonies, rivers, or exile if he's feeling spicy. You must place a line that hooks the theme without looking sweaty. Fail, and your jade cup becomes a small, well-mannered storm. In Palestine, storms are polite, but still make you wet. That's how ancient China drinking keeps power bright and civilized. Then the pitch pot, tuhu, jar, slides in with a grin you can hear. Lacquered arrows, a distant mouth, the silence of aim deciding. You steady your breath while zithers count heartbeats behind the screen. Score into Prince claps once, which is a novel-length compliment. Miss, and the penalty pour arrives like a tutor who loves you. This is elite nightlife, strict, merry, and very sober about fun. Now for Gushui Liushang, the floating cups on winding water. A carved gutter meanders like a small river through the garden. Cups drift, poets write. Your turn arrives with the current sentence. If you finish your verse before the cup kisses your sleeve, you pass. If not, you drink the river's verdict and try wit again. Court life China invented deadlines that smell like osmanthus and dusk. A psalm literati leans close-eyes, bright as lacquer in lamplight. Parallelism, he whispers, is balance for the ears and state. You nod, then stitch an image. Crane wings, moon on celadon bowls. The table hums, your line lands like a soft jade seal. At an imperial banquet, approval rarely raises its voice. It simply moves you one seat nearer to interesting trouble. Music answers back. Gucci plucks, that taste like late autumn tea. Paper laughs in triplets while riddles jump like koi in moonlight. Name the character hidden inside loyalty or sip the forfeit. Calligraphy appears, brush tip trembling with theatrical restraint. In Palestining, the arts braid the evening into one ribbon. This is ancient China drinking, where culture is the chaser and the drink. Regret prowls the edges, wearing a comedian's mask. Boast too hard, and tomorrow files it under scandal. Mock a rival's couplet, and a cautionary tale grows legs. Here, court feast games double as HR, gently carnivorous. You want to be memorable, not memorizable for the wrong reasons. That's the subtle terror of court life China after midnight. Boards appear. Waiki, stones like cold moons, patience, incarnate. You place influence the way cooks place ginger, sparingly, decisive. A general watches admiring threats that look like politeness. Win, and your reputation glows like warm porcelain. Lose well, and you still earn ink in a favourable hand. Even elite nightlife pays stipends to those who lose beautifully. The air changes, incense haze, citrus ginger notes, a hush like snow. Your cup of Huangju climbs from warm to brave to risky. A jester makes eye contact. Joke, riddle, dare. Choose quickly. You pick dare and compose a 5-syllable apology to your future self. The room approves. Laughter lands where fear was standing. This is ancient China drinking, and you're learning to surf ceremony. Sometimes a ruler joins the games, which is not relaxing. He misses on purpose, signalling mercy, then wins by accident. Everyone understands. The jar understands. Even the jar blushes. You echo his couplet with care, like handling a live coal. At an imperial banquet, harmony is curated, not improvised. And Palestining works because everyone pretends not to see the wires. You leave the garden with ink on your cuff and favours in your pocket. Lanterns paint the corridor gold. The porcelain sheen follows you. Your name grew a little tonight, like rice, under summer rain. But kitchens are heating for the next act. Seasonal dishes with arguments of their own. The menu will speak in dialects of river and mountain dynasty and mood. And yes, the next cup will taste like a policy disguised as soup. smell authority before you see it. Steam carrying ginger, scallion, star anise. Behind bamboo screens, the imperial kitchens breathe like quiet furnaces. Cooks move in patterns older than the throne they serve. This is court life China, where recipes double as memos. In ancient China drinking, the cup listens, while the ladle speaks. At an imperial banquet, taste is choreography and law at once. Season decides the script. Spring light, summer bold, autumn deep, winter fortifying. Bamboo, shoots arrive like green punctuation in a delicate sentence. River carp glints on lacquer as if the moon signed it personally. Palace dining treats the calendar like a trusted head chef. In a court feast, the wrong dish in the wrong month is a footnote. In shame, your tongue learns discipline faster than your pride does. A steward unrolls the day's scroll. Menu as miniature bureaucracy. Each line pairs a dish with a value. Restraint, vigor, clarity, patience. Duck skin crackles like a decree. Lotus seeds murmur about endurance. You nod as if the soup just clarified your career. That's court life China. Edible metaphors with real consequences. Welcome to elite nightlife, where silence tastes like osmanthus. Wine follows the weather. Huangju warmed to wake the apricot. Osmanthus wine perfumes the corridor with lychee sweetness, citrus ginger notes. A jade cup passes. A bronze goblet remembers older dynasties. This is ancient China drinking, measured and slightly conspiratorial. At an imperial banquet, the second pour can promote or postpone you. You sip like a scholar official proofreading his own fate. Tools teach hierarchy. Celadon bowls for whispers, heavy platters for statements. Chopsticks click once, never twice. The room hears everything. Ladles hover like etiquette in metal form. Precise, unflustered, kind. Palace dining makes even steam behave with Confucian propriety. Lyot. In a court feast, your appetite is a guest, not a general. Let the menu lead. Ambition will follow without limping. Dynasties flavour differently. Han Court loves substance with fewer adjectives. Tang salons glow. Peaches, foreign spices, silk road bravado. Literati plate restraint, then brag in ink afterward. Ming banquets negotiate with thunder, abundance, technique, bragging rights. Qing Palace life edits and refines, porcelain sheen over ritual. Through it all, ancient China drinking keeps the room honest and warm. A tray of river prawns lands, lacquered like small sunsets. Winter broth arrives, thick enough to argue with January. Tofu skin folds like letters never mailed, but lovingly saved. Every bite is a syllable. Plates form paragraphs you can taste. In court life, China the chef is part poet, part meteorologist. Palace dining makes the weather inside. Obey better rules. Chefs are mandarins in aprons, ranked, examined, promoted. Knife work is calligraphy. Stock is diplomacy in liquid form. The head cook can lift or soften tempers by turning heat one notch. Power, even if he never sits at the main table. At an imperial banquet, you're eating discipline disguised as delight. And yes, ancient China, drinking helps the lesson go down smiling. Sumptuary codes patrol the pantry like polite, relentless guards. Bear's paw. Rare, and rarer still without a reason to justify it. Abalone, sea cucumber, bird's nest, served with footnotes of propriety. The emperor eats policy. You eat commentary in smaller bowls. In a court feast, indulgence needs a chaperone named context. Eat. Nightlife here never forgets the ledger under the linen. Listen to the room. Incense haze, clinking cups, silk sleeves whispering. A poet drafts a couplet, with chopstick pauses as commas. A general measures the duck like a map he might defend. You taste calm while calculating whom to thank next. This is called life China, where gratitude travels faster than dishes. And ancient China drinking keeps gratitude fluent and brave. Mistakes? Oh, they happen. Garlic too bold, vinegar too shy. Dish returns to the kitchen like a sealed memorial. The head cook bows to the error and promotes a side dish. No scolding, just correction. That's institutional grace. In palace dining, recovery is part of the training. Remember that at your next imperial banquet of everyday life, by dessert, candied kumquats, almond jelly, sesame, coins, the room exhales. Music leans into lower lamps. Talk moves from policy to personality. Cups circle slower, like elders strolling after rain. You feel the evening pivot from theatre to salon. Late nightlife begins where ceremony hands the baton to conversation. And just beyond, the folding screens, stories sharpen into games with consequences. You notice power by what moves silently. Trays glide, doors breathe. A hand appears with a towel before you even think spill. Welcome to the orchestra you rarely see, the palace's nerve net. In court life China, eunuchs are conductors who never touch the baton. At an imperial banquet, they tune timing like luthiers tune calm. This is palace dining where perfection looks like nothing happening. A chief steward steps once and 20 servants change direction. He carries a feather whisk, but it might as well be a scepter. Bamboo tallies click softly, inventory singing under its breath. Names live on slips, roots live in feet that never collide. In ancient China drinking, wine arrives exactly one heartbeat before thirst. That's logistics as love language learned over dynasties. Eunuchs guard thresholds of rooms of people, of information. They taste for poison, then taste for temperature, then for mood. A cup too hot embarrasses rank, too cold insults the kitchen. So they calibrate warmth until apricot and straw whisper. Now, at a court feast, safety and flavour share the same ladle. Elite nightlife doesn't gamble with emperors or their guests. You read status by footsteps. Heavy for carts, quiet for favourites. Linens turn corners like schools of fish that studied geometry. Porcelain hums at a pitch only trained wrists can hear. Celadon bowls nest and unnest with monk-like certainty. In palace dining, friction is a sin with measurable costs. The cure is choreography older than some city walls. Wine cellars keep seasons in jars, cool earth, warm kettles, patient notes. A register lists Huangjiu, Miyu, and Osmanthus, wine by temperament. Dot. Brave, mellow, conversation, policy, tasting categories with jobs. At an imperial banquet, the pour is also a prescription. Ancient China drinking, dosage equals destiny if misread. Stewards rid you the way physicians read tongues. Kitchen runners are sprinters who never sweat where anyone can see. They rehearse alleys between tables like scholars rehearse verse. Lacquered trays, right palms steady as calligraphy strokes. Misjudge a turn and you paint disaster with sesame oil. But you won't see it. Training pulled the scene off stage. That's court life China. Crisis solved before rumour wakes. Eunuchs manage proximity, which is another word for oxygen. They decide who breathes near power and who watches from weather. A subtle shuffle moves you one cushion nearer to consequence. You think it's luck. It's a memo written with ankles. At a court feast, Distance tastes like policy in disguise. Palace dining translates space into sentences you can swallow. Signals bloom and vanish. Folded fan, lifted towel, lantern tilt. One gesture means more cups, another means less conversation. A whisk across the sleeve, musicians soften, riddles pause mid-air. Even the incense haze obeys these finger-sized decrees. In ancient China drinking, silence can be the loudest instrument, and eunuchs play it with virtuosic restraint. Counts matter because kitchens eat silver, if you let them. Tonight's carp, tomorrow's duck, next week's lychee from the south. Tallies marry plates to people. Waste marries nobody and thus offends. A good steward can quote leftovers like a poet, quotes Tang. At an imperial banquet, thrift hides beneath abundance's sleeve. That paradox keeps elite nightlife solvent through long winters. Scandals are prevented with towels and rewritten with towels. Spilled wine becomes a bow, a shattered bowl becomes a proverb. Eunuchs erase noise before it matures into narrative. They're editors of reality, trimming mistakes to fit ritual. In court life China, a steady hand is better than any apology, and apologies here cost more than porcelain. They also carry rumours, but responsibly, like lanterns in wind. A raised eyebrow travels faster than a rider on the post road. Know this, the one who poured your second cup remembered your first joke. He can place you near an ally or a trap tomorrow. In ancient China, drinking relationships are archived in wrists. At a court feast, access is the rarest vintage. By night's end, you'll thank people whose names you never heard. You'll sleep admiring a machinery that pretends not to exist. It's beautiful, sure, and dangerous if you forget who oils it. Remember the feather whisk that tallies the cup at perfect warmth. Palace dining runs on invisible promises kept in public view. And beyond those doors, music turns to strategy, and strategy to risk. You think you're just sipping. Actually, you're signing with your lips. Behind every smile, at an imperial banquet, is a tiny ledger, balancing. In court, life China generosity arrives like spring rain, soft, relentless, shaping fields. A cup raised is a door opened. A refusal is a door memorized. This is ancient China, drinking where taste buds do public administration. Your tongue keeps receipts, your sleeve hides them. Gifts travel on lacquered feet, tea bricks stamped like official seals. Silk bolts stiff with new promise, pine mushrooms, sleeping in straw. A jade cup engraved with cranes that look suspiciously accurate. Each item says, "Remember me later," when memos grow teeth. At a court feast, rapping is rhetoric, weight is argument. Even the ribbon has an accent you're expected to recognize. Toasts are contracts with music. Name the emperor first, then harvest, then hosts. Place yourself last, not as posture, but as policy. Your cup tilts. Steam writes cursive in the incense haze. A poet witnesses, a steward hears, memory notarizes in chorus. In palace dining, form protects feeling from getting mugged by appetite. That's the wisdom inside ancient China drinking when it behaves. Praise is legal tender. Spend it counterfeit, and you'll buy regret. Quote, a town couplet to fit the dish. Not your ego. Duck like autumn armor. Fine. Duck like my rival. Careful. A scholar official smiles when your line balances like lacquerware. At an imperial banquet, poetry is diplomacy in smaller cups. In court life, China wit repays interest long after wine cools. Tributes arrive from provinces sounding like geography in baskets. Lychees panting, snow ice, river eels coiled like punctuation, sesame cakes. Eunuchs translate perishable favors into durable proximity near power. You taste a county's hope and a governor's request, salted lightly. That's ancient China drinking. The map poured warm and fragrant. At a court feast, distance closes across porcelain. Look for micro gestures. A cushion nudged, a sleeve offered a fraction sooner. A second pour appears right when your sentence needs courage. Proximity is vocabulary. Meters become metaphors. You're fluent or not. In court life, China inches on the carpet, equal pages in a file. Palace dining turns seating into choreography. You can feel underfoot. Learn the rhythm or dance alone. There's a border between gift and bribe, patrolled by Confucian propriety. Cross it, and your gold smells like vinegar. The morning after. Stay this side and your pear blossom wine tastes like loyalty. At an imperial banquet, intent is plated beside the fish. The room knows when a present arrives wearing false perfume. Ancient China drinking forgives many things, except clumsy greed. Obligation wakes early. A messenger bows in the candlelit corridor. Such and such thanks you for last night's elegant line. Translation: the favor has matured, interest is due gently. You compose a note that bows twice and promises once. In a court feast, repayment can be a seat, a word, a pause. In palace dining, silence itself can be currency. Decline with art, not armor. Offer time, introduce a safer friend. Sending stone and paper, not silver. Send verse, not rumor. Let your osmanthus wine cool, while your caution warms. Court life China respects a graceful not yet, more than a panicked yes. That's the secret inside ancient China, drinking a survival skill. You're not dodging, you're composing a longer song. Stories circulate. A governor who sent lychee out of season. The ice melted, the fruit wept, the favor smelled desperate. He drank loud at elite nightlife and woke up provincial again. Regret writes fast. Rehabilitation writes slow with a shaking brush. At an imperial banquet, timing is flavor you can't add afterward. The tale becomes a footnote. Everyone swears they never read. Some debts prefer poetry. A thank you couplet on silk, framed modestly. Some prefer logistics. 3 carts of rice arriving after a flood. Some prefer distance. Your name not spoken when trouble knocks. In court, life China, reciprocity tailors itself to the weather. Palace dining rewards those who match gifts to seasons like chefs. Get that right, and winters shorten politely. So you keep a private list, ink the colour of prudence, lines straight. Who warmed your milieu at the right moment, who shifted your chair closer, who laughed softly at your worst pun so others could. This is ancient China drinking, as reputation engineering cup by cup. And just beyond the screen, the ones who tune moods step forward. Musicians, dancers, courtesans, performance as diplomacy, are waiting to teach you the next rule. You hear the shift before you see it, a hush that tastes like cinnamon. Screens fold back, and music pours in like warmed light on lacquer. This isn't background noise, it's a second language with better manners. In court life, China notes introduce you before your name does. At an imperial banquet, melody is the safest kind of ambition. Welcome to performance where silence applauds first. The gujin arrives like winter wisdom, 7 strings and 1 heartbeat. A piper replies, bright as porcelain under a brave lamp. Flutes, braid breath with incense, haze, and citrus ginger notes. Each measure calibrates the room like a steward calibrates heat. In ancient China drinking, tempo decides how quickly favors travel. At a court feast, harmony is logistics with better shoes. Courtesans glide in with calligraphy wrists and scholar eyes. They recite, improvise, solve riddles, and edit pride without knives. Think literati, with silk sleeves, paid to make gravity dance. Their salons extend the table where lacquer ends and wit begins. This is palace dining turning into seminar, softly and on time. You're graded on attention, not desire, and both can fail. Etiquette governs performance, like banks govern rivers. You do not touch, you sponsor silence for difficult passages. Meeting a gaze is a sentence. Holding it becomes a paragraph. Each bow has grammar. Each smile signs a receipt. In court, life china restraint is the most expensive fabric. Wear it, or buy regret at tomorrow's full price. A singer offers a lyric sweet as osmanthus wine. In snob, she threads hand-caught gravitas with tang salons sparkle. You taste likey and distance, sorrow and silver on the rim. Her rhyme lands, and your cup rises like a small lantern. In ancient China, drinking applause is a sip done correctly. The room exhales, then remembers politics again. Dancers loosen the air with sleeve-scrolled stories of cranes and rain. Jade pendants tick like elegant clocks around a living waist. Drums keep time that even stubborn generals obey. You feel your breath align with choreography and custom. At an imperial banquet, grace is a draft you're expected to honor. Miss the beat, and a rumor learns your name. Requests are messages, never mere preferences. Plum blossom means steadfastness. River snow hints at exile. Choose orchid pavilion, and literati lean in like cats. Musicians translate your selection into posture and forecast. In a court feast, playlists negotiate better than letters. That's elite nightlife, when subtlety is the loudest drum. After the main table, private salons bloom like moonlit courtyards. Small groups, lower lamps, and larger truths safely phrased. A courtesan edits your couplet until it stops wobbling. A painter writes your mood with 5 strokes and 1 silence. This is palace dining, dissolving into mentorship in silk. Your reputation leaves with ink it didn't have at noon. Gifts follow art like shadows follow pillars. A poem on silk and inkstone, a discreet purse for the troop. Confucian propriety guards the border with polite spears. Cross it, and remorse sharpens those spears by dawn. In ancient China, drinking gratitude must never smell like purchase. Keep the line tidy, or purchase a scandal you can't resell. Games return, wearing new costumes and better stakes. Finish a couplet before the jade cup docks at your sleeve. Solve the riddle, or drink the penalty until wit remembers you. The room smiles, but the ledger listens harder than anyone. At an imperial banquet, losing well outranks winning badly. Court life China prefers elegance over victory every time. Then comes the moment you'll remember longer than titles. A melody folds around your name like a careful envelope. You feel seen, weighed and nudged, one chair closer to consequence. The night's ink dries on porcelain sheen and steady hearts. This is elite nightlife, as apprenticeship, not escape. You leave changed, not just entertained, and that's the point. Outside, lanterns shiver, and the corridor smells of cool lacquer. Laughter thins to footsteps. Kettles sleep. Rumour stretches awake. Tomorrow brings audits of cups, words, and glances that lingered. A brilliant evening can curdle by noon, if pride forgets posture. In ancient China drinking, dawn is both judge and physician. And beyond the doors, the city's shadows invite risks the palace never forgives. The corridors cool after music, candlelit and careful with echoes. Eunuchs fold the night like paper, creating pockets of privacy. Screens. Slide, a side door opens onto lacquered hush and jasmine. This is court life, China after applause. where voices wear slippers. You're still inside the imperial banquet, just trimmed to whispers. Welcome to elite nightlife in parentheses, where meanings double. Tea arrives first, then wine. Logic before bravery, always. A pot of dragonwell settles nerves. Huanju wakes intentions. You sip both, because balance is survival in palace dining. Steam writes cursive in the incense haze over porcelain sheen. This is ancient China drinking as mathematics, not impulse. You calculate futures while ginger warms the back of your tongue. Private rooms bloom like small planets, each with its gravity. A general trades, whether with a minister storm for harvest. A poet polishes a memorial, disguised as a moonlit verse. You hear clinking cups marking commas in cautious sentences. At a court feast, punctuation is edible and very persuasive. You nod in the right places so silence keeps liking you. Eunuchs curate distance like curators hang silk scrolls. One finger's width shifts a friendship 3 winters forward. Their whisk means pause, their lantern tilt means continue. They regulate elite nightlife, the way kettles regulate heat. In court, life China, access is music. You never hear loudly. You thank them with attention, not questions, and never coins. Gifts become smaller now, more dangerous for it. Not silk bolts, just a phrase, perfectly cut, handed gently back. Your couplet about river, snow felt, clarifying. Translation, proceed. Your joke about cranes was bold. Translation, reconsider, tomorrow. At an imperial banquet, approval travels, dressed as understatement. You file it in a tender pocket, where regret can chew it. Games persist whispering, whitey stones like cool planets in a tray. Single placement implies a road, a favour, an escape route. You play like a cook uses salt, decisive, then patient. Lose with dignity and win proximity. Win loudly and lose weeks. That's ancient China drinking, where luck prefers steadiness to noise. The board says, later, more eloquently than men do. Beyond the bamboo screens, gardens learn your secrets. Lanterns hang like low moons. Bamboo screens talk in dry syllables. Osmanthus on the path sweetens the air with lychee sweetness. Footsteps soften, caution sharpens. The coy practice discretion. Palace dining has ended, but policy keeps strolling beside ponds. You practice gratitude again, so fate doesn't feel snubbed. Consequences hover like moths around a stubborn flame. Laugh too sharp becomes scandal by breakfast. A boast too tall converts to remorse with bureaucratic speed. This is called life China, where a cup can edit a career. In ancient China, drinking, tomorrow's hangover, is mostly reputational. So you pace yourself like a scribe, saving ink for dawn. Scribes? They're not here, but their shadows are. Every memorable line wants a clerk to live in. A steward listens, building a map of who owes, who warmth. Celadon remembers fingerprints longer than people think. At a court feast, memory is a very patient musician. It will replay your note when the room is different. Sometimes the night spills outside the walls, carefully. A pavilion by the lake, zither soft as a secret handshake. City lamps blink. The river practices floating cups in miniature. You're still inside elite nightlife, just with cooler air. Ancient China drinking prefers lanterns to fireworks. Always. Your name learns how to travel without telling everyone it left. Then, the ship turns toward morning, the morning after with ledgers. Soup of pear and white fungus, a physician's applause in a bowl. A memo, thin as duck skin, waits like weather under your plate. Did your toast bloom or bruise? The answer wakes before you. This is imperial banquet Arithmetic, cups in, out comes out. Regret taxes the reckless. Restraint collects quiet dividends. You leave before sunrise sleeves, scented with citrus ginger notes. Date yawns, the capital inhales, rumour warms its hands. You carry favours like eggs, soft-shelled but astonishingly loud. Sleep will come later. Reflection has first appointment. Next comes the throne itself, the cup that sets everyone's pace. Wines, and the etiquette of surviving when the emperor drinks last and longest. You feel the hall before you see him. Vermilion pillars, dragon scales, in gold leaf. Incense climbs like careful arguments. Guards breathe in unison behind jade masks. This isn't dinner anymore. This is weather, and the throne is the sun. At an imperial banquet, the emperor's cup sets the moon's tide inside you. In court life China, even silence kneels when the sleeve lifts. Welcome to ancient China, drinking where one sip can redraw your map. Protocol narrows the air until it whistles. 3 bows, eyes lowered, voice steady. Stand where you were placed. Move only when invited by a glance. You're a sentence inside a very old paragraph, so keep your commas quiet. Throne room turns appetite into posture and patience. This is palace dining, as liturgy, not leisure, and it's beautiful. Learning the grammar keeps you fed, breaking it keeps you famous for the wrong reason. A taster sips first face unreadable as lacquer, then nods like a small bell. The wine is Huangjiu warmed until apricot and straw agree on peace. Sometimes osmanthus wine arrives, lychee sweetness with citrus ginger edges. The cup itself matters. Jade cup for blessing, bronze goblet for memory. In ancient China, drinking vessels carry verbs older than your resume. You listen to the temperature, the way monks listen to rain. Toasts travel outward like ripples. Emperor, ancestors, harvest, hosts, then you. Raise to the brow. Speak briefly. Let humility season your syllables. Alliterate this line that fits the season, earns you clean weather. At a court feast, you're measured by restraint, not volume. You sip, you breathe, you let your heartbeat learn the room's pace. That's court life, China. Precision that feels like grace when you relax into it. Consequences sit nearby like polite tigers, purring in conditional tense. One joke turned an inch too sharp becomes a scandal with quick legs. 1 cup too many purchases remorse with tomorrow's coins. A stumble is forgivable. A pattern becomes policy against you. Elite nightlife here is lacquered. Fun on the surface, ledgers below. Remember, survival is an art. Regret is a tax with compound interest. Your body must cooperate. Shoulders low, gaze soft, wrists obedient. Breath through the nose, not the story you're dying to tell. If the emperor glances bow with sincerity calibrated to the moment. Answer, like a poem that respects its meter first. Palace dining rewards those who edit themselves before speaking. It punishes those who publish drafts at full volume. Praise the throne without gilding it to death. A tang couplet, placed like a seal, earns you a warmer cushion. Flattery that drips sticks to your shoes later. Don't track it. In court life. China, the literati admire balance more than fireworks. Let your words taste seasonal. Spring clear, autumn deep, winter strong. That's ancient China drinking turned rhetoric, measured, warm, and brave. The emperor drinks last and longest, which is a parable and a policy. He regulates the night, like a physician regulates dosage. If he slows, you slow. If he brightens, the lanterns learn courage. Dosage is destiny, and the throne pours it with steady hands. At an imperial banquet, your calendar lives inside his cup. You keep pace and earn tomorrow. You rush and buy a sermon. Eunuchs translate mood into motion. Whisk once, the music softens. Twice, it stops. A lantern tilt moves a minister closer, and you farther from a cliff. A towel at your elbow is mercy. A missing paw is a memo. They remember who needed rescue and who created work. In a court feast, access is written in inches you barely notice. In ancient China drinking, gratitude should be precise and quiet. If you misstep, shrink the circle of damage immediately. Ask for soup, the pear and white fungus kind that tastes like apology. Offer a self-deprecating couplet. Let the room laugh you back to safety. Pay with humility, not performance. Rumors tire faster that way. Palace dining respects repair, done swiftly and without theatre. By dawn you want human, in the margins not hazard, in red ink. Dynasties tuned this dance differently, but hummed the same melody. Han court-like substance, fewer adjectives, deeper bowls. Tang salons gilded edges with silk road, bravado and brighter lutes. Song literati preferred understatement sharp enough to shave. Ming banquets negotiated abundance. Qing palace life edited it elegantly. Through all of it, ancient China drinking kept courage warm, not wild. When the last toast lands, you're lighter and heavier at once. Lighter with relief, heavier with favours that now have birthdays. You bow out backward, carrying warmth like a fragile lantern. The city outside smells of lacquer, cooling and rumour warming. Elite nightlife continues elsewhere, where rules bend and faces relax. I did throughout the. Just beyond those gates waits the physician hangover, and the first pangs of regret you'll have to outsmart. Dawn arrives like a polite judge, and your skull files a complaint. Incense from last night lingers, sweet, faintly scorched, a memory with teeth. A eunuch cracks the lattice. Cool air edits your thoughts into sentences. This is court, life China, the morning after, where silence prescribes first. You're still inside the long echo of an imperial banquet's applause. Welcome to ancient China drinking, when the music's gone and the ledger speaks. The physician enters, like a footnote, walking calm as celadon glazed. He reads your pulse in 3 gates, floating, sinking, stubbornly embarrassed. Tongue inspection. Too red, he murmurs, heat from clever toasts. He listens to breath the way scribes listen to rumours. At a court feast, diagnosis begins with dignity. You can keep. Palace dining taught excess. Now medicine teaches exit strategies. A tray appears. White fungus and pear soup, steam smelling of apology. A saucer of salted plums for courage, disguised as electrolytes. Shredded ginger in honey, citrus ginger notes that tame regret's edges. Chrysanthemum tea cools, heat, without scalding your ambition. This is ancient China, drinking softened by pharmacy and patience. The prescription is warmth, water, and not pretending you're fine. He presses higu between thumb and finger. A spark runs to your forehead. Mugwort steams your ankles. Jade rolls across the temple like small winter moons. Towels warmed to confession loosen. The fist behind your eyes. Hopper basin holds water, darkened by last night's bravado. In court, life China, remedies our choreography with softer drums. At an imperial banquet, recovery is part of the ritual, just quieter. Breakfast retreats from poetry to grammar. Plain rice congee, pickled mustard whispers. Salt, sesame oil says, enough now. Millet porridge behaves like a loyal friend. Bland, present, helpful. No fireworks, just fuel tuned to the hour's humility. Palace dining can dazzle. It can also repair with deliberate simplicity. That's still ancient China drinking, just written in lowercase. Etiquette wakes early to sweep your tracks. You send a note. Last night's warmth exceeds my poor cup. A box of tea bricks modest travels with the letter's bow. No silver. Confucian breaks keep the cart from rolling downhill. In a court feast, apology is architecture, not theatre. You build a small bridge before gossip declares a river. Scribes appear later in the light like ink, deciding where to live. They recall your couplet, your seat, your laugh. Did it tilt or stand? One neat line preserves you. One sloppy flourish shelves you. Hangovers here are reputational, regret, that walks in shoes. Court, life China, values steadiness more than heroics. At noon, you learn to write future restraint with today's careful tea. Physicians are political instruments, tuned but not owned. They treat the throne, yes, but also the mood of the corridors. They whisper dosage to stewards, not just of herbs but of wine. A mispoured huangjiu is diagnosed like a policy error. In ancient China drinking, prevention begins in the cellar. At an imperial banquet, safety and flavor drink from the same ladle. Practice the quiet arts, breathe like you're bowing inside your ribs. Alternate tea and cup, let music, not ego, set your pace. Eat before the second pour. Answer short, then listen long. Call it peasant wisdom in a minister's sleeve. That's how palace dining stops being a cliff and becomes a path. It's also how elite nightlife stays lanterns, not fireworks. Superstition drops by with a wink. Tie red thread round your wrist. Avoid mirrors before noon. Let chrysanthemums see your face first. A jade charm against scattered spirit nests in your sleeve. You humour these kindly ghosts because anxiety loves tasks. In court, life China rituals are placebos with real side benefits. And in ancient China, drinking belief is half the medicine anyway. Cautionary tales patrol the corridors, like cats who own the place. A governor who tippled through protocol lost a province by dusk. Poet's brilliant insult bought him winter on the frontier. Exile tastes of wind-dried fish and ink that want warm. At a court feast, courage must be edited, not removed. Elite nightlife forgives style. It fines you for repetition. By late morning, your hands stop ringing like small bells. You stand, bow to breakfast, and make friends with water. A eunuch moves your afternoon. 2 seats safer than yesterday. Learn the lesson. Survive the cup to survive the season. Because beyond these doors lies a harsher remedy than soup. There are border posts where demoted men drink and the river listens. The letter feels heavier than jade. 3 seals, 1 verdict. You step from vermilion halls to wind that smells of iron. From imperial banquet to mule tracks, from silk to dust. This is still court life China, just written in lowercase. Welcome to ancient China. Drinking where the cup maps survival. Every swallow is weather. Every breath counts coins of warmth. The tavern door complains, then forgives you with heat. Millet wine fidgets in clay bowls, not jade cup perfection. Ginger bites, smoke argues. Boots thaw into honest puddles. Here, palace dining is a rumour told by firelight. You trade lacquered grammar for pottery that tells the truth. Court feast becomes stew, and nobody misses the orchestra. Company? Demoted scribes, patient soldiers, horse traders who grin. They sip and nod like books that learn to walk. A tracker mends his bowstring. A clerk mends his pride. You hear capital vowels hiding inside frontier consonants. This is ancient China, drinking with elbows on the table. Protocol loosens its belt. Dignity keeps its shoes on. How did you get here? A joke an inch too sharp. Too brave, near a listening whisk, at midnight. Regret travelled faster than your courier ever could. That lovely court feast became a footnote with teeth. In court life China, consequences arrive wearing warm coats. They sit beside you and order another bowl. The wine is rougher, grain spirit that kicks like a mule. Call it baijiu if the season invented it where you stand. Call it survival if your hands stop shaking. You toast mountains first, then mothers, then the stove. Imperial banquet habits linger, edited by Weather's pencil. In clay humility tastes less rehearsed and more earned. Games survive everything. Dice that clatter like small verdicts. Arrows at a straw ring. Pitchpot, tuhu, gone rustic. A riddle traded for a story. A debt traded for a song. You scribble couplets on the wall with charcoal hope. This is ancient China drinking, where laughter patches roofs. Win or lose the house keeps the storm outside. Poetry learns boots here. Ink smells of pine and smoke. Think sushi lining bread and river in exile's grammar. No anthology required, just steam rising from millet. A line that holds through wind is its own recall letter. Even far from palace dining, the literati still breathe in. Meter, a good verse warms more than one bowl. Politics keeps walking slower, more honest about its limp. Magistrates visit with teacups and careful eyebrows. Gifts shrink, dried pears, inkstones, a cart of salt. Confucian brakes still patrol the road like friendly ghosts. In court life, China even favors wear boots properly. Elite nightlife becomes a stove, a story, a spared mistake. You build things, a bridge, an irrigation ditch, a school. Stomachs remember engineers better than epigrams. A winter soup line edits your reputation kindly. When reports travel, they smell of wheat, not wine. The throne counts effectiveness louder than apologies. Imperial banquet may yet find your name tolerable again. Night here is huge, stars pinned like bright official seals. Wolves argue in the hills. Your pulse learns their grammar. You think of court feast lanterns and don't flinch. Regret turns into patience, then into a plan. This is ancient China drinking, a slow, warm policy. Steam on your lip, promise in your hands. Sometimes a courier appears a small moon on the road. A letter unseals, not pardon, but possibility. Return, if you can prove steadiness in crowded rooms. Capital air tastes of lacquer. Your tongue remembers. Palace dining is a test. You've studied in weather. You pay your bill, bow to the stove, and choose your pace. On the way back, you rehearse silence and shorter toasts. You pack couplets that fit cups the way lids fit jars. You plan to spend warmth like money. You like keeping. Because court life China prefers recovered men to raw heroes. Just beyond the gate, the city's tea houses wait with softer traps. We'll pour there next. The street-side cups where rumours learn to sing. You push open the lattice, and the city exhales. Steam, sesame, rain on stone. Tables crowd like gossip. Bamboo chairs remember everyone's posture. Kettle screams, then forgives. A server's sleeve smells of toasted rice. This isn't a court, yet verdicts are issued between sips. Welcome to ancient China drinking at ground level, where news ferments. It's not an imperial banquet, but outcomes still travel by cup. Tea houses sort rank with softer tools. Price, corner light, who brings your pot. Merchants own the sunny window, porters own the doors, quick draft. A clerk with good ink sits near the storyteller's shadow. Officials in plain hats pretend to be furniture and fail adorably. This is court, life china without lacquer, only hustle and eyes. Etiquette loosens, but the ledger never leaves the room. Tea first, then wine, logic before bravery, just like upstairs. Lounging for clarity, jasmine for diplomacy, puer for memory with boots. When deals thicken, Miju warms hands into yes. A bowl of Huangjiu adds apricot courage to shy consonants. This is palace dining, rewritten as alley wisdom and steam. Tone stays civil, the heartbeat edits its adjectives. Menus read like weather, noodles for rain, dumplings for wind, pickled mustard, crunches like small decisions, done right. Bean curd skin folds into letters you didn't dare send. On a tray, osmanthus wine arrives like a rumour that smells kind. This isn't a court feast, but it's a parliament of bowls, and every bowl votes on who you'll be tomorrow. Listen, raconteur's auction, truth with drums and eyebrows. A hero leaps gullies with one syllable and a pause. A villain trips over a rhyme and buys the room another round. You learn what ministers can't say, and poets want print. In ancient China drinking, story's a courier with warm feet. Your caution bends closer, pretending it just loves art. Games, of course. Dice clatter like house sparrows under the eaves. Someone sketches pitch pot, to who rings with chalk on the floorboard. Losers drink. Winners by all remain employable by noon. A riddle lands. A bowl lands harder. Laughter stitches the hour. Even here, court life China grades grace under pressure. Fail pretty, and the house forgives your ambition. Deals happen where steam fogs the bamboo screens. A silk factor trades lychee crates for time on a barge. A magistrate's aide learns which bridge needs repair quietly. You give tea bricks now, you send rice later when rivers bite. This is elite nightlife at noon. Quiet, solvent, breathtakingly efficient. Your seat is cheaper. Your margin for error is not. Remember, tea house codes echo the palace in friendlier shoes. Don't toast yourself. Name the season, the city, the cook. Keep cups level with the brow. When the old men watch, don't drown sense in baijiu, just to prove you own a liver. The street has rules gentler, but exact like a good brush tip. Break them, and regret arrives with a constable and a shrug. Scribes exist here, just dressed like people with errands. A note on mulberry paper, folded once, crosses 3 tables. Someone writes your one good line on the wall with pride. Someone else prices your joke, cheap, costly, or priceless later. In ancient China, drinking memory wears cotton, not silk. It still outlives careless mouths every single time. Upstairs, rooms are the city's thesis statements. Low lamps, half curtains, a guqin whose patience never ends. Courtesan edits your couplet until it stops wobbling. Tea underlines, wine italicizes, silence publishes. It isn't palace dining, but reputations still crystallize. Even DII imperial banquet energy shows up to listen. Risk? Always. Censorship here too, with excellent poker faces. A boast grows legs. A rumour buys shoes. A name takes a walk. You survive by donating wit and overpaying for humility. Bow to the kettle, not your reflection in its skin. The street forgives style. It finds repetition like a tax. Your safest armour is usefulness that tastes like soup. When dusk leans in, lanterns pin gold commas on the lane. Vendors switch to skewers, storytellers to ghost tales. Cups darken, voices warm. Promises ask for proof tomorrow. You step out lighter with intel and heavier with tasks. This wasn't a court feast, but it briefed one beautifully. And beyond the gate, river pavilions pour foreign flavors that argue with the map. You follow the river to a lantern-lit pavilion where the city loosens its tie. Boats bump the pilings like polite guests clearing their throats. Perfume of grilled lamb, cumin and pomegranate sneaks past bamboo screens. This is ancient China drinking with a passport. Edges softer, flavors louder. Not quite an imperial banquet. Not merely a stall. Something in between. Elite nightlife goes bilingual here, and you're invited to listen. A trader uncorks grape wine. Putaljiu, dark as lacquer after rain. The first sniff carries date palms, saddle leather, a rumour of walnuts. Rice wine is song. This is brass, you think, and you're not wrong. At a riverside court, feast variety is policy disguised as pleasure. Palestining learns new verbs here, and pretends it always knew them. In court, life China, taste is a spy with impeccable manners. Musicians shift accents. Peeper bright with kucha fingerprints, drummer shade wilder. A melody that once crossed dunes now crosses your pulse. Dancers bring sleeves edged different coins, chiming like small suns. You sip and feel boundaries negotiate under your tongue. This isn't treason, it's tuning. East to west, cup to cup. Ancient China, drinking keeps the map from becoming a cage. Plates argue cheerfully. Sesame flatbreads beside scallion steam. Roasted carrots, glossed with honey glare at soy, in friendly rivalry. Coriander walks in like an extrovert and sits near everything. At a portable court feast, you practice diplomacy with chopsticks. Palestining will steal this menu later and call it seasonal. Meanwhile, your bowl learns courage without raising its voice. Etiquette adjusts, still Confucian, now with elastic seams. Toast swap order. You honor hosts, journeys, translators, safe winds. A jade cup meets a glass beaker, neither blinks, both bless. You raise the rim to brow, then nod at the river's patient grammar. In ancient China drinking, humility is the only fluent accent. Even elite nightlife bows to that rule when it travels. Diplomacy tastes like a flight of small pause and careful verbs. A governor discovers he adores dates. An envoy discovers restraint. Someone jokes in two languages, and meaning lands on both feet. Business happens in sips. Treaties rehearse in appetizers. That's a portable court feast. Policy in bite sizes, plated warm. Court. Life China smiles because the ledger likes what the palate learned. Risk hums under the tablecloth like a cautious bee. Moralists whisper foreign excess. Reformers whisper new revenue. One more cup could buy regret faster than a courier can ride. You edit your laughter, not your curiosity. Good choice. In ancient China drinking, courage is tempered like a chef's knife. Palestining remembers who tempered and who swung wildly. Merchants teach storage like monks, teach patience, jars, seals, cool clay. A lesson in tannins sits beside a lesson in timing. Warm the rice wine, let the grape breathe, the steward repeats. By dawn, the imperial banquet will copy the protocol elegantly. Life China steals shamelessly when wisdom travels well. And yes, it pays, sometimes in coin, sometimes in safer winters. Games adapt because games always do. Pitchpot Tuhu aims at a jar painted with desert stars. Riddles twist on loan words. Winners translate forfeit into applause. A quern sighs. A hand drum answers without raising a scandal. At this river court, feast rhythm is a handshake that actually means it. Elite nightlife learns a new step without breaking its shoe. Your street talk climbs the stairs, wearing tea house steam like a cloak. Did you try the pistachio cakes? Becomes, did you meet the envoy? Rumour loves desserts. Policy loves rumour when it behaves. Soon Palace Dining will plate a frontier sampler with excellent footnotes. That's ancient China drinking, innovation migrating by appetite. And court life China nods because appetite votes daily. Consequences still keep a seat, always. An overeager toast becomes scandal with imported adjectives. A sloppy boast turns tomorrow into a cautionary tale. So you pace your curiosity like a boat against current. Steady. An imperial banquet can forgive novelty. It fines negligence. Your cup remembers. Your calendar thanks you for the memory. Lanterns thin. The river writes silver calligraphy under the pier. You pocket a date, a line of verse, a smarter way to pour. Tomorrow brings audits of taste, of tact, of taxable imports. Monopolies wake early. Ledgers stretch. Salt and wine smile thinly. Ancient China. Drinking is about to meet accountants with brushes. And that, my friend, is where the story sharpens without losing its flavour. Clerks arrive like winter, quiet everywhere and hard to argue with. Brushes bloom black orchids on tallies. Seals bite wax like tidy wolves. You're watching revenue put on silk. Salt here, wine there, grain elsewhere. In court, life China. A cup is also a coin with warm breath. Ancient China drinking funds roads, posts, and the habit of surviving storms. An imperial banquet is beautiful, and fiscally very well documented. Inside the bureau, lacquered counters shine with arithmetic. Jars line up like soldiers waiting for their names. Excise stamps nap on twine. Scales remember everyone's secrets. Paper screens whisper, production, transit, sale. 3 checkpoints of fate. Court feasts taste brighter when the ledgers balance in daylight. That's the quiet engine behind Palace Dining grace. Tax is a choreography. The vintner bows to the inspector's stamp. A red slip proves the Mijou was born legally and politely. Untaxed you tastes the same but sounds like exile in a ball. So merchants prefer music that receipts can sing along to. In ancient China, drinking legality seasons flavour more than soul. Court. Life China smiles widest when paperwork breathes easily. Licenses hang like talismans over cellar doors. Fail an audit, and your kettles nap for a season. Pass, and the imperial banquet might borrow your best casks. Eunuchs send inquiries. Stewards request samples in elegant jars. This is palace dining as procurement. Polite, exact, relentless. Your wine learns to bow before it learns to boil. Walker Provincial Winery. Steam, straw, apricot, and iron hoops. Inspectors taste with eyes first. Clarity, seal, provenance. A ladle rises. A sip decides if carts keep rolling. Chalk marks bless barrels like brief, efficient prayers. Ancient China, drinking here is craftsmanship, audited by calm. The road to a court feast begins in this humidity. Where there's tax, there's temptation wearing boots. Smugglers float, jars past reed beds, quiet as calm. Monk donates by due, strong enough to erase vowels. Officials crack down, with whisk signals and polite thunder. In court, Life China scandal is a fiscal event with gossip garnish. Elite, nightlife, hates raids, ledgers love them loudly. Confucian propriety, lipolysis, the border between gift and bribe. A tea brick is gratitude, a purse is a headline with legs. Say thanks in verse, not silver, in stamps, not shortcuts. The Virtupio prefers poems it can file and sleep afterwards. At an imperial banquet, clean hands make warmer cups. That's survival grammar for ancient China, drinking in public. Price edicts arrive like weather reports, measured, occasionally ignored. Famine? Lower duties. Flood? Delay. Audits and poor porridge first. Still, palace dining must look modest when granaries sigh. The throne swaps osmanthus wine for tea, where optics require. In court life, China thrift is theatre with moral subtitles. A court feast can praise restraint more sweetly than sugar. Memorials flutter in, literati arguing tax like its verse. Lighten the levy, preserve the craft, steady the poor. Another replies, fund the posts, fix the roads, guard the borders. Brushes dual bowls weight, policy tastes different by dynasty. Ancient China drinking becomes philosophy with apricot notes. Palace dining implements whatever wins without spilling. Curds. Salt pays for soldiers, wine pays for messengers and mercy. Caravans move like patient arteries along winter roads. Barges carry stamped jars under bridges that taxes built. The empire drinks what it defends, and defends what it drinks. An imperial banquet thanks infrastructure without giving speeches. That's court life China, logistics disguised as hospitality. Your playbook friend, pour like a citizen, not a pirate. Check seals, honor the season. Keep receipts like small saints. Match gifts to context. Let your humility write the label. If an error happens, fix it before rumor learns to walk. In ancient China, drinking patience is cheaper than penalties. Elite nightlife feels safer when the bureau sleeps well. Even so, numbers can't police hearts forever. A boast in a shadow room can still outrun a stamp. A governor's nephew can still improvise ruin with one cup, which is why moralists and poets sharpen their pens next. They'll turn hangovers into mirrors and careers into parables. And you'll want to listen before the parable chooses your name. Scrolls unroll like quiet tutors after the noise of the imperial banquet. Ink smells of pine, admonitions breathe through bamboo screens. You're still inside court life China, just with softer shoes. Here, ancient China drinking learns grammar from ghosts with brushes. Lacquered tables remember every sermon. The cups forgot. Don't silence joy, teach it to walk straight. Confucian propriety doesn't ban wine, it edits it. Toast up, boast down, laugh warm, never sharp. Keep meters clean. Raise the rim to the brow, say little, meaning it twice. At a court feast, a measured sip equals a paragraph of loyalty. Palace dining turns moderation into choreography. You can taste. Break the step, and the floor keeps the rumors beat. Poets argue with the manuals, and then secretly agree. Dao Yuanming sips among chrysanthemums, resigning without shouting. Li Bai rides moonlight, yes, but the moon pays his bar tab. Du Fu watches floods counting cups, like sandbags for grief. In ancient China drinking, lyric and law are married cousins. The imperial court loves both, when neither trips the other. Moralists keep a drawer labelled, regret for names you know. A clever quip at a prince becomes exile by afternoon. A late beau grows interest. A loud laugh buys winter on the frontier. These are cautionary tales written on porcelain, not paper. Elite nightlife shines, the morning ledger decides what it cost. And the ledger never drinks enough to forget. Buddhist bells ring, clarity over clamour, tea over thunder. Monks brew patience, abstemiousness becomes music for the mind. Taoists smirk, empty the self, not the cup, let spirit pour. Manuals fold these currents into palace-sized advice. At a court feast, even silence has a tasting note. Palace dining blends restraint like ginger in winter soups. Handbooks circulate, toasts, bows, penalties for dueling lapses. Name heaven, earth, ruler, hosts, and then yourself. Never refill your own jade cup. Invite grace to do it. Pitchpot, Mrs. Urn, verse, not volume. This is court. Life China codified for trembling wrists. Ancient China drinking passes, exams one sip at a time. Women read, write, and enforce the quiet rules of rooms. Palace ladies cue music with fans. Eyebrows become metronomes. Courtesan edits bragging into charm with one raised nail. Even the empress sets borders the eunuchs already know. At an imperial banquet, poise outranks perfume every time. Their life survives because someone mothers the flame. Popular maxims travel faster than couriers on dry roads. Warm wine for truth, cool wit for safety. Tea for the tongue. Soup for the soul. Sleep for the scandal. Woe before salt, never season the host. In ancient China drinking street wisdom underwrites palace polish. And a court feast tastes better when cook and proverb agree. Calligraphy turns ethics into weather on silk. A rim, inscription whispers, now when the river is flood. Brushwork steadies hands, and hands steady fortunes. A jade cup becomes a portable sermon with a porcelain sheen. Past dining loves objects that remember better than people. Court life China files them where light can find them again. Literati anthologies bind successes to warnings like twin fish. One page shines with a couplet, the next scolds its aftermath. Students memorize both and practice at small tables. They rehearse humility, like scales, before a performance. At a court feast, rehearsal is mercy for the future. Ancient China, drinking rewards those who practice sobriety of intent. You can steal these rules for modern rooms without blushing. Echo first, add second toast last. Make space for others. Alternate tea with courage. Eat before opinions. Let gratitude arrive before adjectives. Let quiet carry credit. That's palace dining wisdom in everyday shoes. Wantage and elite nightlife. Anywhere will thank you with calmer dawns. Manuals can't police midnight's appetite forever. Some will dodge the page and chase the drum. That's when campaigns sweep in, moral purges and sudden raids. Lanterns, dim kettles, hide and whisk signals grow sharp. The text becomes law. The law becomes thunder for a season. And that storm is exactly where we're heading next. Lanterns dim, not from wind, but from policy in a sharp mood. Edicts march in. Less silk, fewer lamps, small portions of applause. You feel corridors shrink. Jokes step out for a smoke and don't return. This is court life China, when thunder wears ink instead of armor. Ancient China drinking tightens its belt and counts to 10 slowly. At an imperial banquet, you taste caution before the soup arrives. The notice says frugality, but it smells of fear and accounting. Sumptuary codes sharpen. Palace dining becomes monkish on command. Duck loses its gloss. Osmanthus wine hides behind polite tea. Servers pour silence with a steadier hand than Huangjiu. Court feast now bows to optics first, appetite second. You learn that virtue can be plated sparingly and with witnesses. Eunuchs swap feather, whisks full ledgers with bad tempers. A misplaced laugh becomes a line item named scandal. A second pour becomes remorse in tomorrow's memorandum. The whisk lifts once. Enough. Twice. Remember exile. Elite nightlife isn't cancelled. It's graded on a crueler curve. And the curve remembers who needed the reminder. Music survives softer, gushing like snowfall over porcelain sheen. Peeper stays in its case unless the empress blinks yes. Poetry tucks in its elbows and chooses winter nouns. Games vanish, pitchpot, toohoo, pretends it never lived here. In ancient China drinking, delight hibernates in teacups. At an imperial banquet, even applause is on a diet. Menus rehearse humility until humility gets stage fright. Millet porridge walks in. Sea cucumber takes unpaid leave. Bamboo shoots whisper, "We're enough," and for once they are. You chew carefully so gratitude doesn't sound like sarcasm. No. Palace dining proves restraint is also a performance art. And the audience, policy, claps without smiling. The bureau loves a crackdown. The way winter loves spare wood. Auditors count cups like beads. Seals multiply like polite locusts. A jar of miayu needs 3 signatures to remember its name. Untaxed by Jiu, tastes of wolves and unpaid poetry. This is called Life China with a cold, clear ledger. Ancient China drinking survives by learning to show receipts. Courtesan salons relight. Behind thicker bamboo screens, riddles shrink to proverbs. Flirtation wears a scholar's hat. A single wrong couplet buys you a season of snow. So the smart ones edit warmth with surgical commas. Elite nightlife turns minimalist all nerve and exactness. In that small space, sincerity somehow gets louder. Households adapt with monkish ingenuity. They all replace a spectacle. Neighbours share kettles, not rumours. A night means tea, plus a thimble where friendship lives. Cups drop in size. Toasts grow in meaning, not volume. A private court feast fits on 1 tray and 3 honest jokes. Palace dining comes home, wearing linen and good sense. Moralists preach, some are right, some are rehearsing careers. They quote sages while imagining promotions shaped like lanterns. You nod, because the point is partly true and partly necessary. Ancient China drinking doesn't argue, it pivots like a dancer. At an imperial banquet, prudence is the only dessert refilled, and you learn to like its aftertaste, or at least respect it. Still, cracks appear where warmth insists on living. A birthday bowl, a reunion ladle, a victory spoon of soup. Men of rank toast quietly to bridges finished on time. Women raise cups to children, sleeping through storms. A court feast can be 3 people and a candle that won't quit. That's court to life China, as heartbeat, not headline. Edicts ease, because thunder gets tired, and lamps relearn courage. Music stretches, dueling peeks out, laughter remembers its shoes. The room exhales, chefs smuggle colour back onto plates. But everyone moves wiser, toes pointed away from cliffs. Ancient China drinking returns, edited deeper in its chest. Palace dining remembers that generosity feeds policy too. You ask what survives these swings besides appetite. Answer: technique, how to bow, how to pause, how to pour light, how to turn a cup into a promise instead of a dare, how to measure a night by kindness, not quantity. At the next imperial banquet, you'll need those muscles warmed, because now we open the household door and meet the quiet genius of cooks who turn scarcity into legend. You step past the threshold and the whole house exhales. Steam, sesame, soot. No vermilion pillars here, just rafters that remember lullabies. Grandmother lifts a lid, clouds of ginger argue kindly with scallion. This isn't an imperial banquet. It's resilience with chopsticks. And yet, in court life, China homes rehearse the state in miniature. Welcome to ancient China. Drinking where clay bowls do policy softly. The altar shelf watches. Ancestral tablets, 2 candles, a fruit that sweats. You bow, pour 3 drops of miyu, invite memory to eat first. Ritual whispers. Present the cup. Lower your eyes. Mean it twice. A court feast begins here with rice, salt, and unembarrassed sincerity. Even palace dining borrows this choreography when it wants to feel pure. Your pulse steadies, your appetite remembers its manners. Markets are the preface, cabbage crisp as new parchment, river fish winking. Vendors report the weather, better than astrologers. You bargain, in proverbs pay in smiles, and get a scallion for luck. This is court, like China, with sleeves, rolled, and copper coins. Lao, elite nightlife, waits for later. Daylight belongs to ladles. Ancient China drinking starts with fresh ginger in a paper twist. Utensils sing, wok like a bronze bell, cleaver like a metronome. Oil blooms then settles, soy sauce writes cursive on heat. Steamers stack like small pagodas, faithful and unpretentious. No jade cup but a chipped porcelain that knows your stories. At home, an imperial banquet is a table for 6 and a stool. You learn that courage tastes like broth when nobody's watching. The first pour is warm. That smells of apricot patience. Grandfather measures with his nose, not a whisk, and never hurries. A sip for elders, a sip for guests, a sip for the weather. That's ancient China drinking, domestic edition. Precise, forgiving, wise. A court feast could copy this pacing and save 3 careers. Palace dining sometimes does, on quiet, necessary nights. Women run the room like seasoned prime ministers in cotton. They plate restraint without speeches. They time rice to apologies. They ate first, argue later, says an aunt who never loses. Chopsticks pass like policy, orderly, generous on beads. This is court life China under a roof that leaks in spring, and still it holds, because kindness knows carpentry. Festivals fold the menu into music. You can smell. Mid-autumn, mooncakes sliced like stubborn coins of affection. New Year, dumplings pleated like letters to tomorrows. Luck, Qingming, greens bitter enough to tell the truth politely. Even here, ancient China drinking keeps pace with bells. An imperial banquet only magnifies what households tune first. Games sneak in while soup says, shriddles on lantern slips. A cousin recites a couplet, the teapot nods approval. Pitch pot, too-hoo, becomes walnut shells and a rice bucket fate. Losers wash bowls, winners wash bowls better. Everybody wins. This is not elite nightlife, it's training for grace under pressure. A court feast envies this effortless curriculum. Ledgers live here too, string-bound, flour-dusted, stubborn. How much rice left? Whose sandals need mending? Who owes a visit? Debts are settled in errands and soup deliveries, not silver. Palace dining calls it provisioning. Families call it love. In court, life China reciprocity tastes like chives on eggs. Ancient China drinking balances the books with laughter. Stories pour while cups rest. How great-grandfather survived a lean year. How a scholar official learned humility from a tofu peddler. How exile tasted of wind and millet and made a better poem. Narrative is the house wine. Refills are encouraged. An imperial banquet may polish home kitchen's root. You leave the table taller by 2 inches of belonging. Night arrives with bowls stacked like good decisions. A small plate of pickles keeps the conversation honest. Someone tunes a guqin, the colour of old tea. Nobody rushes. Ancient China drinking, silence is an ingredient, not an absence. Court feast lanterns are distant cousins of this single lamp. Both ask you to listen. Only one asks you to speak less. Before sleep, 3 drops to the doorstep. Hospitality for tomorrow. You wash cups like editing sentences you plan to keep. The hearth cools, the wok sighs, the house forgives the day. Homes train dynasties to chew carefully and pour kindly. That's the secret palace dining learned and never admitted. And from these quiet rooms comes a final chapter, how cups outlived empires and still teach our wrists. You hold a cup and, surprise, it holds you back. Habit, posture, memory. Dynasties fell, wrists remembered how to raise, pause, and breathe. In court life, China etiquette outlived emperors like hardy bamboo. This final chapter tracks those habits into kitchens and capitals. It's still ancient China drinking, just speaking across centuries. Not a eulogy. More like a toast that refuses to get old. Artifacts still whisper. Celadon bowls cool as early spring water. Lacquered trays hum. Jade cup rims memorize careful foreheads. Inscriptions preach tiny sermons. Know when the river is flood. Free when the river is flood. Museums are after-hours imperial banquet rooms without soup. You read with your eyes, then your wrist finishes the sentence. Objects teach posture faster than lectures ever could. Texts survive like lanterns. Handbooks, diaries, and restless poems. The Somme literati annotate taste with exasperating precision. Dao Yuan Ming pause retreat. Li Bai pause moonlight with jokes. Their lines became manuals disguised as metaphors for you. In ancient China, drinking literature plates, ethics warm. Marsons and passions. Good couplet still feels like a court feast at noon. Family rites kept the choreography, while titles retired quietly. 3 drops for ancestors. Then the living learn by aroma. Weddings rehearse palace, dining with rice bows and laughter. Festivals retell the menu like reliable, generous myths. That continuity is court life. China-sized for a table of 6. The porch, the ladle, the cup, same grammar, smaller stage. Flavors travel too. Ginger courage, vinegar clarity, osmanthus grace. Spring's lightness, winter's heft, seasonal logic still cooks your day. Tea houses, average wisdom. Pavilions test curiosity, kindly. A home broth can outshine a palace glaze when honest. That's ancient China, drinking translated for Tuesdays. And every Tuesday resists amnesia better than laws do. Networking today? It's the old toasts in modern shoes, really. Echo first, add second toast last. Still, undefeated advice. Say less, mean more. Let gratitude arrive before adjectives. It worked at an imperial banquet. It works in a lobby. Elite nightlife still rewards humor that edits itself. Court life. China left blueprints. You're just updating fonts. Games survived as icebreakers with better lighting and playlists. Dueling became trivia. Pitchpot became darts with fewer dragons. Floating cups turned into deadlines that smell like coffee. Salon wit now lives in podcasts and backroom pianos. Yet, the aim is unchanged. Charm without collateral damage. That's palace dining wisdom sneaking into weeknights. Bureaucracy learned flavor too. Designing taxes people can swallow. Salt financed roads, wine paid couriers and second chances. Today's licenses and seals echo those calm brushstrokes. Receipts are still music. Audits still hate improvisation. A court feast needs infrastructure as much as appetite. Ancient China drinking reminds budgets to taste humane. Exile taverns taught resilience you can drink. Not just quote. When plans break, pour warmth. Build bridges, fix ditches. Reputation returns by cart, if you feed villages first. That frontier lesson outlived Qing palace life easily. Court life, China respects men who come back steadier. Meanwhile, the bowl you refill might be your passport home. The senses are archives, incense haze, clinking cups, silk sleeves. Your body remembers etiquette, the mind keeps misplacing. A bowed wrist recalls imperial banquet rhythm. instantly. Lighting, distance, temperature. Still politics in soft clothes. That's the anthology of ancient China drinking in muscle. Read it nightly. You'll spill less and mean more. Myths get louder. Realities deserve the mic for a minute. Joy needed fences. Risk wore perfume named Scandal. Courage was edited, not amputated. Big difference, friend. Manuals were seatbelts, not scolds. They saved careers. Elite nightlife is safer when humility pays first. Keep that, and any court feast becomes home. So here's your invitation. Walk back in with wiser shoes. Sit near the music, pace your cups, and let stories cook. We'll test games, taste policies, and outsmart regret kindly. Call it Ancient China, drinking for beginners and veterans. I'll pour, you listen. Then you'll teach someone else tomorrow. And right after this, we'll step into the night as if we belong. We walked the whole map, porches of power and alleys of rumour, until the rules behind court life, China, started sounding like music. You felt how one warmed cup at an imperial banquet could tune a room, how a glance could move a chair and a future, and how the right silence travels farther than the loudest toast. That's the heart of ancient China drinking, grace as a practical tool. Keep the simple moves, echo first, add second, toast last. Alternate tea with courage. Read seating like a map, and timing like weather. Well, when you pour for the moment. Not the ego, and you'll leave any court feast with more friends than favours owed. That's not just etiquette, it's strategy you can use tomorrow. Remember the engines under the silk. Eunuchs editing chaos with a towel, stewards conducting steam, musicians regulating mood, and kitchens turning seasons into policy. Palestining was never just about flavour. It was logistics, mercy, math served warm. Even elite nightlife had a ledger under the lanterns, and the edges taught the centre. Tea house rumours that brief a minister better than memos, river pavilions, where grape met rice without a duel, frontier bowls that made exiles into adults. If one lesson deserves to stick, it's this. When in doubt, feed people, then speak. Cups unlock doors, soup secures the hinges. You can bring all this home. Host like a calm steward, not a stressed hero. Plate the season, not your anxiety. Keep your wrist humble and your words proportional to the room. Whether you're pitching a project or passing dumplings, the palace rules still work. Quietly, reliably. If this journey gave you something useful, or just a calmer pulse, please like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next chapter. Share this with someone who loves quiet power moves and good stories. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. Let's see this audience light up like lanterns along the river. May your cups be warm, your words measured, and your laughter welcome. Leave richer than you arrived. That's the old contract. I'll keep the kettle ready for the next tale.